All right. What is Nutanix's AHV? So AHV is our virtualization platform. It's built on KVM. Um, we built this actually alongside the DoD, and the reason being for that is we wanted to make sure that we were adhering to their security standards. So it essentially is secure out of the box, which is something that we primarily have been focused on. I'd say like our four kind of pillars when we think of product development and what's most important, it's things like security, performance, scale, and resiliency. So we always take those things into consideration as we're developing. Um, it's enterprise ready. We've tested this at scale. We have customers, variety of size customers, but across enterprise, large enterprise, et cetera. And performance is hugely important to us. So we're always innovating and making sure that it's able to handle, any use case that, we support out there today, and making it easy for customers to adjust, customize, do things like automation, set up, third-party integration, and ensuring that all while doing this with security and performance kept in mind, which is hugely important for us. Okay, this gives you a little snapshot into what our ecosystem looks like. I like to show this because if you look at the box on the upper right-hand corner, which is kind of small, but we're over 1,000 solutions validated, which means we've validated a number of different applications out there. And this is just a sneak peek, right? So we integrate with a number of different alliance partners that we have, and our alliance team is always working towards validating new solutions out there, whether it's across your data protection space or maybe it's more verticalized, like an EMR system or some of the media and entertainment companies that you see below. And something that we were obviously that I mentioned earlier as well that isn't on here, but we're doing a lot of integration with some of the AI players as well. So if you ever heard of someone like Data Robot, NVIDIA's on there too, or Hugging Face, which is one of the largest large language model repository there is. So we're always looking forward and developing integration with a number of these. And again, this is just a snapshot. We actually do post and share our validation list, which you can find located on our support portal. So if there's an application that you don't see on here or a partnership that you don't see on here, obviously reach out to myself or Mark and we can help you navigate that. And stay tuned. So over the next couple of months, you'll see some announcements around some other validated solutions out there, Avaya being one of them, which is like a contact center applications and some other cool ones too. So keep your eyes peeled for sure. All right, AHV adoption. So you'll notice the big numbers in the upper right-hand corner. What does this mean? So of all the Nutanix clusters that we have deployed, this means that we have 78% of those clusters are using our virtualization technology. This is huge because AHV has been around for over a decade. And I mentioned we've tested this at scale. And even at comparatively speaking, when you look at AHV versus something like VMware's ESXi, um, in terms of feature parity and things like that, that was something that we achieved many, many moons ago, many years ago, actually. But in terms of customer adoption, most of our customers, as you can see, are using AHV at this point. Not so much now, but I'd say maybe like a few years ago before the Broadcom acquisition, a lot of our customers, at first wanted to get more familiar with the Nutanix platform. They would run ESXi on Nutanix and essentially do like a slow roll conversion over to AHV, which has allowed them kind of that time to do so. And we still have customers that do that today, so that's always an option as well. But as you can see here, the solution is widely adopted across our customer base, many sizes, and obviously hugely important. Okay. I wanted to include this because I thought this was actually really cool. JetBlue is one of our largest customers, I would say, in the US. And something I always get questioned on is how easy is your solution and how easy is it to learn? And I know Mark was talking about it earlier, and it is truly simple and easy to use. Um, Ease of use matters, and what does that learning curve look like for you? If you have a background and you're pretty familiar with VMware today, you'll pick this up really quickly. In my opinion, the documentation that we have out there is excellent. There's tons of blogs, there's videos out there. But at the end of the day, some people want to feel more comfortable. There are, we offer some classes, some 1 and 2 day classes. You can also get certified, which we definitely encourage. Sometimes we do have classes in person as well, like depending on your location. And that just helps you get more familiar with operating and administrating Nutanix. But in my opinion, the better option is to do or to join and get involved in one of WEI's workshops. They cover a variety of different topics, which is fantastic. And one of their engineers, Mark Gabriowski, is fantastic. When I started at Nutanix, I actually joined his workshop as opposed to joining one of our internal Nutanix trainings, which I found to be super helpful actually. So we always encourage, embracing it. And at the end of the day, you'll always have access to be able to test this yourself. We do have our own labs, and WEI has their labs, so the world is your oyster. You have plenty of options in terms of testing our capabilities. Moving to Nutanix. Okay, let's talk about what a transition path looks like. Nutanix created a utility that is used for migrations and conversions. We call it Move, and as the name implies, pretty straightforward, right? It gets deployed on a VM. It supports a multitude of different sources. So you could think, as an example, ESXi, bare metal cloud instances, and a really good example of where this was super helpful and where we used this recently. We had a customer that was using VMware on AWS, or what they call VMC, and their ELA agreement was up in, I'd say, like 3 or 4 months or so. They received their renewal from Broadcom, which was not ideal and was way higher than they anticipated. So due to that, we had to migrate thousands of VMs out of VMC and onto Nutanix on AWS as well as Nutanix on-prem. It was kind of a combination. We were able to do that in less than 3 months, which was amazing. Move is a great utility. It has an interface. It is very easy to use. What's nice about this is you can scale your migrations as well. So you can scale your migrations out, add more appliances, do throttling. And what's great about this is it's not an all or nothing. So if you want to do more of like a tapered approach, you can migrate certain ESXi VMs, you can migrate certain vCenters. And as I mentioned earlier, we have customers that might run HV on Nutanix and ESXi on Nutanix in tandem and slowly start migrating some of those other workloads over that way too. So the world is your oyster. You have options in terms of how you want to carve out your migrations, but it's pretty robust and you can always scale those out. Moving away from any legacy infrastructure to, repatriating workloads back. This is the utility that we use for that, and the WEI team is super familiar with it, and they actually use this themselves internally as well. Okay, last but not least, we have our .next conference coming up in early May, May 7th through 9th, as you see there. This is an in-person conference, so we would love for you to join us at that. And we also have a discount code that you'll see below, and we can share this out afterwards as well. There's your discount code, so if you're looking for passes for that, please come and join us. It's great. You'll have things like breakout sessions, keynotes, obviously, hands-on demos or labs, training, all that will be included in that. And there is like a world-renowned chef, I believe, that's also attending that as well. But just some good stuff for you to know, and we can send this out after.
Awesome.
So I got.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Love the story, by the way, about attending our training at WEI for Nutanix when joining Nutanix. So, yeah, I hadn't heard that one before.
Yep.
Just as a heads up to the audience, Kathy Maxwell from WEI Marketing just posted in the chat a link to some of our upcoming workshops around this technology. So feel free to hit that link and register for what's available. They tend to keep those workshops smaller so that we can interact with one another and just everyone walk away feeling like they got something great from it. And so make sure to register to get your spot, is I guess what I'm saying. Um, so yeah, thanks again, Kristen. Appreciate you. We'll go ahead and pass it over to Mike DeCourcy now. Again, for the audience, Mike DeCourcy is a Fox Sports analyst that's been on the sideline for games, also in the studio, for the Big Ten Network. And so we're thrilled to have him here today to help you guys create, hopefully, your perfect brackets. Let's see if that happens.
The odds of a perfect bracket are something like 1 in a billion or something like that, and no one has ever done it in any verified contest. So, first of all, I hope everybody can hear me and see me okay. I had a problem with the audio on my computer, so I'm having to do this through my iPhone, and I apologize for that. But I would first start off by saying that it's been a very compelling year in college basketball this year. We had some really interesting action, especially in the Southeastern Conference, which put 14 teams into this 68-team field. It's an all-time record, both for the number of teams from a specific conference, as well as the percentage of membership. Both records had been held by the Big East. The percentage of membership was set in 91 when they got 7 out of their 9 members at the time. And then the numerical record, the 11 that they had gotten in 2011. So the SEC really blew away both records. And one of the interesting things about this is that historically, leagues like this that are so overwhelming and so competitive and so deep have not traditionally done very well in this tournament. Historically, and of course, this is somewhat a recent phenomenon, really, since the Big East grew to 16 teams. They eventually declined to 10 when they shed football, or football shed them, whichever way you look at it. And now we've seen the rise of major conferences with multiple members in the ACC, the the Big 10, Big 12, and SEC, which all have membership well into the high teens. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're all great leagues. And when we've had these leagues, these big mega leagues that are having great seasons, like the Big Ten in 2021, which was a powerful year for the league in the regular season, or like the Big East in that season I mentioned, 2011, multiple other such seasons by some by the ACC, some by the Big 12. They've not generally done well in the tournament. So it's something to look out for. You watch the SEC, you see them get all these teams, and you figure, a bunch of them are going to make it deep. It's not necessarily the case. My theory has been that those teams get a little worn out, that they are constantly having to be the absolute best version of themselves in order to just survive the next game. And so they don't get into a lot of flexibility. They work on being so rigid. And then you get into the tournament and you see something odd, like Missouri is going to face Drake in the first round. Missouri, 22-11, finished 5th or 6th in the SEC, had a tremendous season under Dennis Gates. After a year ago, finishing 0-18 in the league, they finished a powerful season this year, got a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament, one of the top 24 teams in the tournament. But they're now going to play a team in Drake that doesn't play anything like anybody in the SEC. You play Alabama, they're trying to get to 100. Missouri is trying to get to 100 points in a game. And they both did when they played a couple of weeks ago. And so you look at them playing Drake, which there are 364 teams in Division I men's basketball. And Drake is the 364th fastest, which means, yes, they are the slowest team. And so they're going to go against Missouri. And that's what you'll see with Missouri. They're not going to be used to that. And one of the truisms about basketball is that a fast team can't speed up a slow team, but a slow team can slow down a fast team. That's just how the game works. You just can't get them to move faster than they want to move. And so it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. What in 2011, when the Big East had those 11 teams in the field, only 2 of them advanced to the Sweet 16. One of them won the championship. UConn won the 2011 championships, but only 2 made it to the Sweet 16. Pretty remarkable, given that they had 11 teams in the field. So that's something to look out for. Maybe not fall in love with the SEC in this year. I do have one of the SEC teams, Florida, in my championship game, in my Final Four, in my championship game. I can see one of them getting that deep. I can see a couple of them getting that deep, but I have a lot of them eliminated earlier as well. So it's something to think about as you put together your bracket. When I look at the brackets generally, there are a few things that I believe in, and that history has proven generally work. First thing is that if you're going to win a bracket, you probably need to pick the champion. You have to be really good in the other rounds. A conventionally scored bracket. Some brackets are scored if you pull an upset like a 3-14, like a year ago when Kentucky lost to Oakland. That was Kentucky was a 3 seed. Oakland was a 14 seed. Some give you extra points if you pick something like that. The conventionally scored bracket, which is as you advance your teams through, you get points. You really want to pick the champion. And one thing I caution about relative to doing that is that a lot of teams will look at a team that has a great season, like Houston. And man, they're really good. They won 17-1 in the Big 12. They were terrific. They're well coached. Kelvin Sampson's fantastic. They're really tough. I like them. I think they're going to win it all. And then what happens is Houston isn't that talented. They have really good college basketball players, but when I talk about talent, I'm talking about guys that the NBA is going to want. The reality is that since 1988, it's a long time, almost 40 years. Since 1988, every single team that has won the NCAA men's basketball championship has had a future first-round pick in its rotation, or at least one, and usually it's multiple. And what's interesting about this tournament in that regard is that there are only a handful of teams that would be considered championship contenders who have such players. There are teams that are seeded 7th. Illinois has 2 of them. Seeded 10th or 9th, excuse me. Oklahoma has 1. Their point guard, Jeremiah Fears, fantastic player. He's going to be in the NBA next year. BYU, they have Igor Demin, who a Russian import who is having a terrific year, and he's a freshman, and he will probably go in the top 10 picks. So teams that are kind of deep in the field, less likely to win it. Of the teams at the very top of the field, it really looks like you're looking at Maryland, which is a 4 seed, Florida, which is borderline on this because Alex Condon, their center, can projected to be one of the last picks in the first round, but he would fit the definition. Then you have Michigan State with Jace Richardson, guard, a freshman guard who would be top 10 type pick this year after his freshman year. And then you have Duke, which has 4 guys like that. And yeah, so naturally I picked Duke. 4 potential first round picks, 3 that will go in the top 10 this year. Cooper Flagg, who you may have heard about, tremendous, one of the best basketball prospect / players that I've seen come into college basketball during my time covering the sport. Also, Kaman Malawach, terrific 7-foot center who blocks shots, and Con Knipple, who's their classmate, who is a small forward shooting guard who did a really nice job when Cooper got hurt at last week's ACC tournament. And Con came in and had maybe the best games of his young career and showed what he can do when it's necessary. I'd been starting to wonder if Con was just potential, was waiting for him to do what he did, but he was fantastic. And so that's a key thing to look for when you're looking for the champion is, do they have guys who are NBA players? And how can you find that out? Well, the best way to do that is just to Google the mock draft, CSPN's mock draft. Look through it. Takes you 3 minutes. Go through and see if there's any players from any of the teams you're interested in picking that fit that description. I gave you the ones that I believe will fit that description. But the other, the alternative to that, it's important to note, is that, I mean, since that collection is so small of legitimate championship contenders that have that talent, maybe this is a new year. Maybe this is different than every year we've seen before. I have to account for that possibility. I keep thinking it might happen, and it never has, even in years like 2023 when UConn made the Final Four, and they were the only team there that had such a player. They had multiple. They had 3 or 4 on their team that became first-round picks. But they were the only team there, so they had to win it in order for this to continue. So for that reason, I think you look at it and you think one or the other. It's either continues with Duke, Michigan State, Florida, maybe Maryland, but Maryland and Florida are slated to face each other in the Sweet 16, so only one of them can even get to the Final Four. The other element that I will tell you about, it's a very simple little device, KenPom.com, KenPom.com. If you're really into college basketball, it's a subscription site. The subscription isn't a ton. It's only like $25, somewhere around that. Easily the best $25 I spend all year, given what I do for a living. And there's a lot. If you do the subscription, there's lots of cool data that can help you either make your picks, or if you are so inclined in those places where it's legal, and it's most of us now, you can place bets using his information as well. But if you don't want to do that, you just go to the landing page, KenPom.com. That is free. And there are 2 columns on there, offensive and defensive efficiency. And if you believe in a team, it had better be close to the top 20 in both of those categories. It could be 24th, because if they win it, they'll work their way up into the top 20. But Ken's numbers go back to 1997. His database goes back to 97. And every team but one over a full season. I exempt Baylor in 2021 because of the COVID interruptions and games canceled and everything. Didn't play. There's not a full data set. Baylor was maybe the best defensive team I've ever seen, and yet they only rated 21 in KenPom defensive efficiency. So I don't use that season, 2021. I throw that out. But every other year, every other full year, there's only been one exception: top 20 offense, top 20 defense. UConn in 2014 was 39th in offense, and everybody else is top 20 in both. And most of them, to be honest with you, are top 5 in both. Certainly one or the other, but in both. And then the other thing that you want to look at is if you want to weight toward offense. Offense wins championships in NCAA men's basketball. People always say, the coaches always say, defense wins championships because it's something they can control. But the reality is you have to be great on offense, and you have to be sufficient on defense that teams don't overwhelm you, and that you can get what I call the big stop. Late in the game, you're trying to win the game. You need to get that stop. You have to be good enough to get that stop. You don't have to be the best defensive team to get that stop. You have to be good enough. But offensively, you have to be a great offensive team to get that big basket to put you over the top. And that's where the pro talent comes in, doing something that ordinary players can't take away. Ordinary meaning good enough to play Division I at the highest level, but not good enough to play in the NBA, the highest league on the planet. So that's a couple of things to look for: top 20 offense and defense, as well as the pro talent. So those are the things that I would look at first. And then, try not to, the third thing I would say is try not to be the person that is looking to pull all the upsets. You might you might have the right to brag for a day or two, the first couple of days of the tournament, if you do that. But if you do that, you might take out a team that could go to the Final Four or go to the Elite Eight, and you'll lose all those points. So if you're going to pick an upset, be convinced that team's not going anywhere, that they might win a game, that game, but that they won't go to the Sweet 16 or they won't go to the Elite Eight. You're sure that they're not going very far. I did take out Missouri with that Drake game. I don't think Drake. I do believe Drake can beat them, and I do believe that Texas Tech will beat Missouri regardless. So in taking a chance on that upset, I don't feel like I'm going to be penalized by doing that. So those are some of the things to think about as you're doing this, as you're putting your bracket together. Uh, those things are all very important. Couple of things with the weight of the number one seed. You don't look at all of them and say, okay, we're going to have 4 number one seeds. It's only happened one time. We've had 39 or 40 64 team tournaments, and only once in all that time has all 4 number one seeds made it to the Final Four. So don't just believe that you're going to be able to pick the teams that have had the best seasons and they're going to make it. That's pretty unlikely. And I would say this is not a year. That 2008 season, we had unbelievable teams. Those 4 teams were by far the best. In 2015, if they had placed Arizona in the East region, that we would have probably had it again, because there were 4 great teams that year. They misseeded Arizona and placed them in number 2 in the West, and as a result, we got 3 of those 4 teams. But those 3 teams were way above everybody else. Michigan State came out of the East. I think they were a 7 to open, and they when they got there, it was like, yeah, thanks for playing, Spartans, but you're not going any farther. These other 3 are too good. That's not really the case this year. Auburn's been a terrific college team, had a great year, but you're starting to see the effects over the last couple of weeks of being very, very good. I mean, a great college team, but again, not as talented as you'd want, as say UConn a year ago, which had 2 lottery picks in their rotation at the start of the year, and others who are playing in the league as well. So those are all some of the things that I would look at as I was starting to pick out my bracket. And I would love to entertain any questions that the audience might have, as well as the hosts.
Sure. Feel free to get your questions into the chat or come off mute and ask Mike live. That's perfectly fine too. While we're waiting for those to come in, I love the tips. So I heard, yeah, offense wins. So keep an eye on the rankings there. The NBA mock draft, I like that one. And calm down with the upsets. Pick your spots is what I heard, right? So
yeah, yes.
Yeah,
But like Alabama is an example. Alabama can get to the Final Four potentially, although I don't think they will because they're in Duke's region. But they have the ability to get to the Final Four. They're one of the great offenses in college basketball, but their defense isn't good enough to win it. Again, that goes back to that top 20 concept. I think Alabama's around 33 or 34 right now. I don't think their defense is good enough to cover the ground really necessary to get from 33rd to into the top 20 over the course of the next 3 weeks. That's a team that it survives on its offense, and they made a lot of improvements over the last year when they did make the Final Four with I think the number 3 offense or something like that, and maybe even number 1. And then as well, they had the 108th defense, I believe. So you can get to the Final Four. A lot of teams can get to the Final Four. And that's important to sort of try to figure out who can get there. I mean, a year ago, I don't think many people that actually were paying attention picked NC State to get to the Final Four, but it happened. Florida Atlantic the year before that. Those oddities happen. But as I said before, they're getting there, and they're not going to be holding up the trophy on Monday night. Right. They're going to have a great weekend, and they're going to have something they can hang a banner for and get a ring and all that. But they're not going to be hanging up the banner because not good enough on one end of the floor, another, and more than anything, not talented enough to carry those last 2 games.
Got it. Awesome. Well, looks like we got one. What has been your favorite Cinderella run?
Well, I think the best answer to that, Anastasia, is St. Peter's in 2022, I believe it was. It was an amazing, I think it was 2022. What an amazing year that was. They were a 15 seed, and it had been very rare for a 15 seed even to get to the Sweet 16. I believe the first 15 ever to get to the Sweet 16 happened in 2013 when Florida Gulf Coast did that. And then St. Peter's went one better. They got to they got to the Sweet 16, and then they went to the Elite 8 by beating Purdue in the Sweet 16. It was just amazing to see them be able to do that, coming out of a conference that only gets one bid to the tournament, whoever wins their league championship. It's called the Metro Atlantic Conference, or the MAC. They're now talking about trying to change their name because nobody understands their acronym because it has two A's in the middle of it. And there's also a MAC out there that only has one A. But that run by St. Peter's was so much fun to watch. I think there have been more fun games involving upsets. You go back to, I think it was 98 when Bryce Drew hit a length of there was a length of court pass. He caught it and knocked in a 3-pointer to beat Ole Miss. Those kinds of there have been some games that those kinds of upsets. And I was at last year when Oakland beat Kentucky, and Jack Golke from Oakland, I think he hit 7 3-pointers, something like that, scored 30 points. Kentucky never did figure out how to guard him. And so I was at that. It was pretty amazing. To be in a building for one of those kinds of games is phenomenal, because people that don't care, really, I mean, they're just there to watch their team and any cool basketball that comes up. They get all on the side of the underdog. And it became like a road game for Kentucky, which very rarely happens because they have such a big fan base.
Excellent.
I have a question for you. Who are some of the players this year that are ones to watch that's going to make it exciting? I know in past years there's been some like very, very tall players that can also ball, if you will. Other people this year that we should keep an eye on just to make it fun? May not be a winning team, but somebody that will make it fun to watch.
I mentioned Cooper Flagg, and Cooper is a really interesting story. He's from Maine. He's got a twin brother who did not get who's a very fine basketball player, was not as gifted as Cooper. His twin brother will go to Maine next year, the University of Maine, which is one of the smaller programs in Division I. But Cooper is, I call him the best American basketball prospect since Anthony Davis, who went to Kentucky and now plays for the Mavericks. So that's more than 10 years ago. And I think Cooper might be better than that. I think Cooper's frame of reference might go all the way back to when we brought Kevin Durant through Texas and onto the NBA. He's extraordinary, and he's not super flashy. He's great at everything. A great rebounder, a great ball handler, an improving shooter, a phenomenal passer. There isn't anything in the game he doesn't do well. When I did his All-America blurb for the article that we presented last week, I listed almost every major stat category. I usually just pick out the ones that player is good at, but I listed every one because he's good at all of them. So he's somebody that you're definitely going to want to watch. Janai Broome from Auburn was our National Player of the Year. Janai is not as gifted as Cooper is, but he had a phenomenal senior season, terrific work for Auburn, who was the dominant team of the season, a really fun player to watch. I mentioned Jace Richardson from Michigan State. His father, Jason, played for Michigan State when they won their national championship in 2000. And Jace is a lefty, really dynamic to watch, fun to watch. And on that same team, if you watch Michigan State, you not only get to see Jace, but for the price of that same ticket or just turning on the television, you get to see a terrific group of players that have so much ability. It's a really phenomenal team. So that's something that you would want to see. Braden Smith from Purdue is a really interesting player. Braden was the 190th rated recruit in his high school class, and he became a first-year starter on a Purdue team that won 2 Big Ten championships, a conference tournament and regular season. He was the starting point guard in last year's national championship game with Purdue, and this year a first-team All-American, a very audacious player, has a big beard he wears. I don't really understand the beard because it's not something you usually see on a college kid, but he's easy to pick out now because of that. And he's a very fun player to watch. The player I wanted to mention at Michigan State, and I lost his name for a second, Cohen Carr. Cohen Carr is the best dunker in this entire tournament. There's 68 teams here. What's that? So that's almost 700 players, and there is nobody that dunks like Cohen Carr of Michigan State. So a lot of fun to watch him as well.
Awesome. Yeah, Cooper Flag. He's New England native, so a lot of pride there. A lot of the folks here joining the call are in New England, and signed by New Balance, a local company as well. So excited about his future. Looks bright for sure. Awesome. Well, there doesn't look to be any other questions, Mike. I want to thank you again for joining today. I'm sure everybody's getting their brackets tight. This has been really helpful. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Since I have a few minutes before I go, I do want to tell you, just so since you have me, I'll give you my final four.
Okay.
A lot of people ask for the final four like on like February 15th, and I always say I need a bracket. Well, now I have one, so I will tell you that my final four is Michigan State coming out of the South region. I have Florida coming out of the West region. I have Tennessee, tough call between two great defensive teams, Tennessee and Houston, coming out of the Midwest. And then, as I mentioned, Duke playing out of the East region. They'll have a big advantage fan base, even though Duke is in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where they'll in Durham, North Carolina. They'll start the tournament in Raleigh, but when they get to Jersey in Newark, they'll still have a huge crowd advantage. They have a ton of fans up in the Northeast, so they'll have a big advantage there. And I have Duke playing Florida in the national championship game, and then Duke winning. So something, if you're looking for, I don't believe every pick I make, because like I said, no perfect brackets, but those are the teams I feel most confident in individually getting there.
Love it. Awesome. Very helpful. Well, thanks again, Mike. Anything else you got for the group?
Yeah, I think that as I mentioned before, watch out for trying to be the star of the upset game. There are going to be upsets that happen without a doubt, but be very judicious about that. That's my one thing, because people they know that there are going to be upsets, and you try to identify them, and it's not always easy. So make sure that the ones you pick are against teams that don't have great horizons. And watch out. I'll tell you this. Usually, one thing about this, another tip, number one seeds do dominate this. Don't pick them all, but be careful about how you dispose of them, because number one seeds do twice as well in this bracket. And in terms of champions, there have been 25, I believe, champions in the 39 or 40 years of the 64 team tournament. There have been 25 that were one seeds. There have only been 5 that were 2 seeds, and then assorted down the line. So more than likely your champion is going to be a 1 seed. I think that's something else to think about.
Perfect. All right. Well, I know my final four, so thank you for that. Gonna follow suit here and trust it. So awesome. Great. Well, I think that's all we had for questions. We got a lot of good feedback, a lot of thank yous and appreciation in the chat, Mike. So again,
For sharing the time
with you today. This is going to be exciting. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again to the audience. Have a great rest of the day, and let us know if there's interest around this. We'll set something up.